Hi, I'm Namrata Vishwanath, and you're with me today on an interview series with corporate and business leaders. And I have with me here today Dr. Akhil Prasad. And Dr. Akhil here is the current Country Counsel for India for the Boeing Company's India office. And he's held this leadership role for almost 6 years, or around 6 years rather. And that's not all. He has a total of 25 years of experience. And in these 25 years, he's had varied experience. He's held various leadership roles in Disney India, with Electrolux, with Xerox, with General Motors and Fidelity. And that's not all. If this wasn't enough, he has a passion for leadership as a subject. He has spoken at 9 IIMs on this very subject, so he has a lot of interesting stories to share. And what's more, he's gone one step ahead and he's done an advanced management program at the Wharton Business School. Now, if this isn't Superman in person, I don't know who is. And could you actually share a little about, your organization, where you're at, the vision of the organization?
So thank you, Namrata, and thanks for inviting me on your program, which is I follow it on LinkedIn very frequently, and it's a great work that we have done, especially to showcase the hard work that many professionals have done. About me, Boeing, everybody knows, is an aerospace and a defense company, and India is fortunate to have both businesses. In fact, three businesses. One is on the commercial planes, then on the defense side, and also on the services side. So it's a fantastic journey so far. This is my 7th year, and Boeing is ramping up in Boeing India. So, and we have the best of Boeing for India and the best of India for Boeing.
Absolutely, and I was a part of it before, and I remember Boeing had impeccable standards and a great work culture. So I think it's an organization a lot of people look up to.
Yes.
As an organization. Tell me a little more about your journey from where you were to where you are today. It's been a long journey, 25 years, and I'm sure it's shaped you up a lot. And I can see that.
Yeah, so the journey was, I come from Meerut is my hometown, which is very close to Delhi, and everybody knows Meerut. I come from, my father was a medical practitioner. He used to practice medicine, very unique practice. He used to treat patients for free. Even I have seen as a kid, when I used to go to his clinic, he used to be surrounded by about 50-60 patients every time. He used to treat them, at the same time, everybody giving respect, simple solutions. For example, he was a doctor who would not say as to, what is the disease a person has got. He would give a solution instantaneously. And I remember, a patient coming to him deeply exhausted, sweating, and then he asked, after he was inspected by my father, and he said, asked my father that question, what happens to me, Dr. Sir? And my father simply said, oh, nothing, just have a glass of glucose. So perhaps he was low on sugar, and so my father did not want to give him a Latin name of the disease that he had, but tried and gave him a simple solution and a solution off so that he could recover quickly. So I think as a lawyer, that has been behind me, that the evolution was, we all learned the books behind me, we all learned the acts and the sections, which every student has to learn. But what is primary for us is to be able to give simple solution to our clients. A solution which should not be beyond legal. It should not be illegal. When somebody asks me find a way, that does not mean I will give a illegal advice. But what is important is you give them solutions which are practical and workable. And that has been my mantra, so-called reinvention. When I started my career, which was 25 years ago, so I started as a company secretary, and then did law from India. Then as the economy started expanding, we had the opportunity to study outside India. So I specialized in legal first from UK as well as from US. But then I thought that since the economy is expanding, so is the business culture. So what we are looking at today is a convergence of professionalism. So when you have people in the management team or in the boardroom, um, it is expected to think alike. So for me as a lawyer, I should understand business. So that was one of the development areas which I observed in myself about 8 to 10 years ago. And I thought that it is time for me as a lawyer to also understand business. And that was the reason I took up a MBA program with in Madrid, which is the IE University, along with my LLM, which was from Northwestern Chicago. And recently I did a advanced management program from Wharton. And these were so we could learn business by doing a Google or by reading articles. I thought that for me, structured learning works more. So if you devote time and energy and effort on learning, you are able to deliver better to your clients, and you are able to be a better person, a better team player with them. So in a nutshell, this has been my journey so far.
This has been actually quite an amazing journey to look at. You're so accomplished. You're a constant learner, and you're someone who believes in making things simple rather than complicating it. And that's a very key quality which usually good leaders have. Could you tell me who your role models have been in this journey, or any mentors, and why have they been role models for you?
See, you tend to learn from everybody around you. One should have an open mind. It is not only about a senior person is your mentor. It could be anybody in the room who is doing something from his or her heart and being very humble at it. So simple examples could be when you are sitting in a boardroom and there is somebody, an office boy who takes care about the cleanliness of the room, about how the board members are provided meals cleanly, they serve you properly. That is something one should learn. That how a person is thinking, that there should be no discomfort to the people who are having a meeting, versus your own colleague, versus your own subordinate. Things that they have learned in their lives, and if they are able to demonstrate that. But role models, I would definitely say start from your home. My parents have been my role models. As I said, my father, the biggest thing I loved about him is his social connect. His social connect not to become famous, his social connect to be able to provide free medicine and treat patients for free was something which I can never forget as a learning lesson. Then my mother, who has been a professor of zoology, and then for initial part of her career, she never took any salary. So the courage to let go the financial necessities beyond you, and the courage to let go, the financial aspects, and just to be on a social service side is something is very important, which we should learn and which develops a strong leadership.
So there are a lot of people, coming from the story which you just shared, where both your parents have done a lot of honorary work, a lot of charitable work, and at the same time, going through that, it would have put financial constraints. And it's very challenging. So what advice would you give to somebody who is doing a lot of work for the people and is going through financial struggle himself or herself, and how to maybe break through that impasse?
Okay. So one of the important things, which a social worker perhaps faces in life is the financial need. And because all of us have to survive, and for that survival we need to earn. But one thing which is most important in social service is people tend to take shortcuts. People show that they are social workers. In fact, for the quest of money, they tend to do unethical things. So one should definitely be there that for a person who is social, it is important that you also have the where and the means to take care of your basic needs. For instance, one should make a provision for children education, a basic, normal, healthy life, a good lifestyle. Good, I would not say a luxurious lifestyle, but a good, decent lifestyle. For which, unless that is supported, people may struggle, because you may come across people who are doing social service, but because of lack of funds, that social service goes away. So I think a balance needs to be there for an effective social worker to be successful.
That's wonderful. Can you tell me, I mean, you've just touched upon how you had role models in your family and the fact that role models can be found anywhere. You can get inspiration from anywhere. But name any 3 things or activities or people who can lift your mood in a heartbeat.
I think, for me, a biggest motivator is somebody who is doing a lot of good work and learning at the same time. So that learning could be, somebody like me who's acquiring. I don't, advise everybody to do what I do in terms of studying so much, but that education can come from anywhere and everywhere. So somebody who is up to date, somebody who thinks, who can see the future, or who at least have that courage to see the future, and be able to give that confidence to the team that this is something which is an uncharted territory, but something we can do together as a career is something what really inspires me. And in my career, I have seen quite a few people, who have been very, very encouraging and motivating to me. For example, when I used to commute from Meerut to Delhi, which was a long 12 years, and in the chartered bus where you have 120 people in a 50-seater bus, and in those 12 years, I was able to do 4 degrees. So there were a few people who did encourage me. There were a lot of people who discouraged me. But when you are with a mission, when you have a mind that you have to achieve something, for me, it is always I look for a positive motivation than a negative distraction.
So looking at the positive in everything, irrespective of what the situation is.
So there is always something positive which I would like to take out from a conversation or a meeting or a discussion with a person, rather than be distracted by the negative side of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's a key takeaway which a lot of people should take away with them. What does leadership mean to you? And let me add one more to that. Do you have a secret recipe for success?
So leadership, it's hard to define. But I would definitely say leadership is all about good deeds. It is not only what you talk is good. You, in these times of adversity, you have to demonstrate and do good. And by doing good does not mean that, for example, if there is a downturn, a leader will not take a decision to downsize the organization. That also is a sign of leadership, where you need to have that courage to let people go. But when you are letting people go, one has to analyze whether what is the kind of assistance that you can provide to your people you are letting go. Whether they are leaving the organization respectfully or with distrust. Whether you are leaving the organization and people say that I've been cheated in this organization, versus an organization where you have been transparent about the problems that the organization is facing. So a leader has to be honest, a very honest and a very direct, because people are intelligent. One should always assume that person we are dealing with is intelligent.
Yes.
And if we are trying to hide something from people, that is the worst thing a leader can do. And that trust building is important. And that trust empowers, the people will empower you because of that trust to take tough decisions or good decisions in any time of the organization, whether it's good or bad. So you will sail it through. So leadership to me is all about, good things that you can do, be able to take tough decisions, but honestly and with transparency.
That's a very interesting spin. So one question, because a lot of that question comes to me as well, which is, what is the difference between a corporate leader and the business leader? Is it just the structure, the fact that the organizations are different? Like a corporate leader is essentially leading a corporate, and a business leader is someone who's maybe set up his own business. But in a sense, both have similar aspirations and similar challenges. So So what's your spin on that?
So let us give you a couple of examples. So one example is somebody who wants to do a startup versus a legacy organization. An organization which has been there for 100 years. So first go to the 100-year organization. So why has an organization survived 100 years? The few things that go in the direction of creating a legacy organization is somebody would have really thought that we are, so for example, let's take an example of Tata Group. So Tata Steel, founded many years ago by, I would say, not a family, but trustees. So Tatas have that trustee mentality. And the most important thing is, it is definitely a profit-making organization, but at the same time, it thinks about its people. And it thinks about creating a sustainable organization. So what is important for a businessman or for a corporate leader and for a corporate environment is to be able to create an organization which generates profits. Profit should not be a bad word. It is able to give a good livelihood and good compensation to its employees. It should be respected as a corporation. And that corporation should be sustainable. Versus a startup, there have been, in startups, we have seen quite a few examples where startups have become unicorns. So what is essential in a startup is a person has to be a visionary. The visionary is able to generate funding. The funding he's or she is able to translate into a business model. In that business model, it is essential that it should be sustainable. So again, coming to two types of startups, one that has become a unicorn, you have established an organization. It becomes sustainable, generates profits, takes care of the employees, build a brand reputation. Versus the other type of startup where the focus of the individual is valuation. So people would say that I have an idea, I have been able to get best of finance, and then the story stops. You get some numbers, you get more funding, but you lose compliance focus, you lose business focus, you don't care about sustainability. So that is where a business person who is creating an enterprise has to be focused on business sustainability. Unless you are able to sustain a business, it is not the first and the last time that you are approaching your financiers. You have to build your own name and the organization. So for that, I believe that sustainability should also be a primary focus for an entrepreneur to be able to bring, make his or her name, and also make companies which become most admired companies in the world.
But would you say essentially like a corporate, like let's say Boeing or let's say any of the other corporates versus a business, would you say that the challenges and the aspirations of leaders in that are similar or somewhat different?
See, unless you have a similar mindset, so unless I believe that today what I am creating should sustain for next 100 years, what between Boeing and what companies like Boeing and like other people who are venturing into new businesses, for example, we have Elon Musk who wants to do big in aerospace.
Yes.
So people like him also are visionaries, aspirational, absolutely focused on the vision that they have created. And they keep inventing and reinventing. So a 100-year-old company should have a similar mindset than of a startup.
Absolutely.
Because if I do not have that mindset of inventing and experimenting, because experimenting and failure are essential for growth of an organization.
Yes.
So unless we fail, we will not progress, which a startup does very effectively. And then this is what the legacy companies should learn from startups, that we need to be agile in order to for business sustainability for next 100 years.
That makes a whole lot of sense. That does. What are the essential qualities that make a leader valuable to an organization? How important do you think is the role of a leader in building the right work culture and ethos? And how important is relationship building and, having the right EQ?
These are, great things that you're asking in your question, and the answers are in your question only. That I think the most fundamental thing that that I think is essential for a development of a leader is to be able to build that trust. Unless you are able to build that trust, and how do you build that trust? You build that trust through transparency. And leaders is all about not only, we have seen in organization leaders who only think that the spotlight should be on their head because they are the CEOs. But if you see really progressive organizations, you will see the leaders in those organizations. They give a chance to others, perhaps taking a back seat at times. Empowering the leadership team or empowering leadership in the team to be able to drive the organization forward with passion. Because everybody has a vision, everybody has the same mind. It is the leader's job to harness the full potential of the imagination of the team. And if a leader is able to understand what is the potential of the person in the management team, and if those potentials put together can create magic for the organization. So a person like a teacher in a class knows, the teacher in the class knows that who are my bright students.
Absolutely.
But the person should not ignore students who are weak. The role of a teacher is to ensure that students who are doing good, they will do good. But put a same focus on students who are not doing so good, so that they also do good.
Yes.
And that is precisely the role of a leader, that if you have people in your team or in your organization, and you see pockets where you think somebody is not being able to do a good job, the natural reaction should not be to sack them.
Yes.
The natural reaction should be to have a coffee with those employees, understand what is inhibiting performance. And sometimes this kind of discussion with the employees could completely transform the person and the performance. So that is, to me, is something what a leader has to do. The person is not only driving business all the time, but looking at your team, looking at your people is something which is more important to me.
Yes, and in fact, if I were to sum it up in one line, it's essentially the role of a leader is like being a mentor, being a teacher, and taking care of everyone, not just the star performers, but even those who need to be uplifted.
And yes, and we read, a lot of things these days that a CEO reads 60 books a year. So why is that? That is because once you devote your mind to something creative and more positive energy, you deflect that positive energy in your organization.
Yes.
And that is important because unless you do that, people will, always see that this is somebody who's only asking for sales numbers. The person is not concerned that today, my husband or my wife was unwell, and this is what I'm telling my leader, and the person is only asking me about the sales numbers. So be empathetic and sympathetic to the needs of your employees. Give them space, give them empowerment, and that is what a leader should do.
Absolutely. I feel that you're someone who is a leader not just in words, but someone who imbibes and implements it in action. And a lot of people don't do that. It's not just you talk the walk and you walk the talk. So I would really love to know what are the specific actions or practices you follow, best practices you follow, which have helped you grow in your career. I've seen you even jumped a lot in your career. So what is it that has helped you grow, and what advice would you give to others in terms of what they could do to grow?
See, first and foremost, I think people should not think that MBA is leadership, or law is leadership, or sales and marketing, financial leadership. That is a tool to do or discharge our responsibilities.
Yes.
That is something which is what we say is our competency. But for a leader, it is important that it is it goes much deeper and much beyond. So it's not about that whether I am a good sales forecaster, that's why I am a leader.
Yes.
I think what we should do, we should have a very simple philosophy that one, I would be a collaborator. I will respect other person's views. I will look for advice and guidance. I will encourage dissent. And, I will look for fresh ideas. And if I see that people in the management team, somebody is silent, that does not mean the person should be ridiculed. It may be so that the person may not be expressive enough, or the person may not be open in a crowded meeting room.
Absolutely.
So we could perhaps get some fantastic advice or directions outside the meeting room.
Right.
So somebody who is introvert inside the meeting room could give us, we go out for a coffee, and then we get some brilliant ideas. So the potential is, because all 5 fingers are not the same size, so all individuals are different. Somebody will be more expressive, somebody will not be expressive. So I think leadership is about having a mind to be able to understand these things. And I often repeat that respect is something which is very uncommon these days. Respect for your colleagues, your partners is something which is something which we have always learned. For example, as a kid, I think our parents taught us that whenever there used to be somebody coming to our house, it's not about they would not say, but you are expected to serve cold glass of water. Somebody who comes to your house.
Yes.
Offering meal is something which is but natural, because visitors are welcomed in our society. When you see an elder, you touch the feet. It's not about, I'm not saying in the meeting room you do that, but it's about the message is showing respect. Or, when you do not have enough seats in the room, nothing stops us from asking an office boy to get a chair. We can pull it ourselves.
Yes.
So small things like those, people observe in you, and when they observe in you is something which they also reflect.
Absolutely.
So what people see in you is what they reflect.
Yes.
So one thing which I've also done in my office is, Namrata, if you come there, I have a bowl full of sweets. So that's my way of gathering attention and people to my room. Because when they do that, you're asking me how I do it.
Absolutely. So this is the hack.
So that's the hack. So how I learned that is, we have a beautiful balcony at home, and we have put some for birds. We feed them. So every morning we see a flock of birds in our balcony. It gives you such a positive feeling. So I told myself, let me try and do that in office. And I put some sweets in a bowl, and the reaction was similar. So people flood my room, and when they flood your room, it's a very informal environment.
Yes.
And when it's an informal environment, you need to have a very candid and a heart-to-heart discussion with those people.
Yes.
You do not have those ice wars.
No.
Ice wars, the ice will never happen between two individuals if you take care of them, if you think about them. And that is exactly what one needs to practice. It comes from practice, it should come from within.
Yes.
Because the moment you try to show that you do this, people will immediately understand.
Yes.
The sixth sense will come into foreground, and then they will say that this person is not genuine.
Oh yes, people get the difference.
People get the difference, and that is from your heart. It should come, not from your mind.
Absolutely. So you've actually beautifully explained how you've built certain best practices in the organization to actually grow in your in your journey. But at the same time, what is it that you do as a best practice to keep your mindset positive? Because you did mention at the outset that it's important for a leader to be positive and spread that. So what are the practices you follow there?
So that's another great question, Namrata. And unfortunately, in today's competitive world, what we tend to do is we tend to forget. We only follow a routine. We come to office at 8:30, 9 o'clock. We leave office by 10 o'clock. During those 11, 12 hours every day, we get a lot of hammering.
Yes.
And we get a lot of hammering, discouragement.
Yes.
And then we are ridiculed, not professionally, but even personally.
Yes.
So, and this has all happened to me.
Yes, I'm sure.
And when this has happened to me, I used to ask that question to me, whether do I get bogged down by that, or whether do I do something about it. So in my case, and it may be a different for any other individual.
Yes.
In my case, I followed two things. One is education.
Okay.
Education could have been, as I said, unstructured, but I followed a structured way.
Sure.
And the second thing which I have started to do for last 2-3 years is about following my hobbies. So, for example, I follow music, and I follow music that I started to learn music. And I started to learn music because it was my hobby, and I never wanted that, I passed these years without following my hobby. That was the initial idea to pursue my hobbies. But what I have started to now analyze is following my hobbies makes my mind positive. So when you, for example, start your day with a music session, 1 hour of music practice, it is like doing a meditation session, a deep breathing exercise. And then it is what energizes your day. And that is what I would recommend, to all, especially the young professionals who are watching this. And this is what I also tell students when I, take classes, is in your schedule, educational curriculum schedule, you go to these fantastic colleges, but you don't see people near swimming pools. So colleges have fantastic fields. You will not see students playing anything.
Yeah.
You will have fancy gymnasiums, but if you have 2,000 students in the university, hardly 5 or 10 are inside the gym.
Sure.
So, and that also applies to a music room, to foreign language learning. Whatever may be your hobby, make it a part of your routine, even if it is for half an hour a day. So some people say, go to the gym. My mantra is, follow your hobby. It is a different experience, and it makes you more positive. And when you have a positive mindset, the negative thoughts will stop coming to you, and that in your personality it will show, and people will understand that this person is out there to help you become better or to learn from you.
Absolutely.
So either you learn or you educate. In either way, both are very constructive processes, and that is what is needed in today's business environment. That we have to hold hand of our teams. We should not see a person fall or make mistake. If a person makes a mistake, hold that hand, give that dose of encouragement, pass on that positivity, and only then organizations will, be able to prosper and do a better job.
I don't know if I should say, but many years ago there used to be an advertisement where they used to say, "Boost is the secret of my energy."
Correct.
Would it be safe to say music is the secret of your energy?
It is.
It is.
It is. So it is, and boost is what? It's energy.
Yes.
And energy it can come from various forms. The only thing is we do not take that energy inside us.
Yes.
And that is why there are issues relating to organizational failures. Believe me, a startup does not mean that you have to be rude to other employees, or that is the only way for a startup to survive. Unless you are rude, people will work. If there is a positive work pressure and there is a negative work pressure. Pressure is the same. You have to do your job. If somebody is expected to be in office or on laptop with office work for more than 12 hours a day, either you ridicule a person or you motivate a person. If you motivate a person, result would be better. If you ridicule a person, the result will not be that good. So one has to really understand whether I am doing a positive message or a positive thing or a negative thing. For that, one has to first become a positive person.
Yes, it starts with you.
It starts with you.
It starts with you. To take that one step further, you spoke about developing people, not just the star performers, but even the ones who are not. So, what would you advise an organization or a corporate or business leader? What should they do to build the next generation of leaders and the second line of leaders and the teams as well?
See, one thing, should be very clearly understood that tomorrow's work environment would no longer be that this is to be done by the HR person or a legal person or a finance person. There is a lot of convergence which is happening. So, if an HR person is not doing his or her job properly in terms of motivation and encouragement or development of a individual in an organization, it is a collective responsibility of the management. I would say it should be treated as a management failure. It should not be said that this person is not doing well, so HR did not do well. So one has to really join together to make a person successful in an organization. So for example, I may be in my office and I see something happening to say a finance team, a person being treated not properly. So it is my job to go to the head of finance and tell that person that this is something which I heard. Is there anything we can help? It should not be you should talk to HR and weed out that person. It should be whether we can help that person to come up and improve the performance. So that is, my way is more of a collective, and I would recommend it should be a more collaborative approach than being left in silos. You don't do anything about it because it was a job of somebody else. It is about taking charge, collaboration, making it effective.
Yes, that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you mentioned this very interesting toffee bowl, best practice which you follow at an individual level as a leader. What organizational toffee bowls could we create where there are organizational best practices to help the team grow in productivity and each person grows in the career and at the same time is contributing member to the organization? What best practices would help?
See, so these kind of bowls, could be everywhere. And we have seen very successful organizations like Google, and Fortune 500, for example, and publications like those. They do come up with a list of the best places to work, and those best places to work are not essentially the highest revenue generating companies. So there is no correlation between excuse me, there is no correlation between top of the revenue chart versus the best place to work. It has to be a mix of so many things. For example, if you have women's safety, could be that toffee bowl.
Yes.
For example, you have women working in the organization, and if I am completely agnostic of the fact that what time they are leaving the organization, and I leave them to the mercy of crowd outside, I will be failing in my responsibility and to their families to ensure that we are an organization that takes care of you. So one of the important toffee that we can give to an employee is to that confidence that if you are leaving at 6:30, take an office cab. We will provide you with a security card. You will reach home safely. And then there is a recording mechanism where the company is informed that this employee reached home safely. That would be one area. Then some companies have started hobby sessions. So they encourage employees after 6:30, 7 p.m. to take dance classes, music classes in office, in a cafeteria, which allows people to gel together, to increase their positive quotient or improve the positivity inside them. Those things should be encouraged. Youngsters bring a lot of cultural thing, and we have, how it's a great, India is how much, about 60-70% below the age of 25. So such a young workforce, how can we have a very straight suited environment in an organization when the population is young. We should take a feedback from that culture, those youngsters, as to what is it and how the organization should be changed. So those kind of things, it only comes with once you have your eyes and ears open, and you allow in your mind that these things will, you are receptive to a change. So one thing is, on paper you say I have to change the organization. You collect good ideas. There are suggestion boxes online and physical, and then those suggestion boxes are analyzed. But then there is a resistance to change from the organization management, because most of them are, say, mid-40s and upwards, but the work culture is 25 or 26 years culture. So there is a 20-year difference between the thinking and the work culture. And they say that we have to keep the organization suited to a 45 and above kind of a work culture. Those things will be a mismatch. So we have to think about the majority, also about the minority, but also about the majority. I'm not saying it's a majority rule, but in terms of creating a work environment, the majority view cannot be ignored.
It shouldn't, yes, it shouldn't. What are the common mistakes you see teams making or leaders making or even organizations making, and how would you recommend one overcomes them?
See, the most basic thing, is, the youngest person in the team has no right to speak. So curbing the expression, or not taking the person's view seriously. So, a person may come up with a, stupid idea. I may think it's a stupid idea, but whether we need to discuss that idea or not. So that is one of the common things, organization make, is not to listen to your people. And secondly is the arrogance, of that, I am a senior, so I know it all, and people should be followers. So the biggest problem with the organizational culture, in my view, is you kill dissent and you promote followership. The moment you do that, people in the organization only will do what the leaders are saying. They will never be able to criticize a decision. They will never be able to give ideas to improve a situation. That is where, all these things, the organizations have to give their people that confidence and courage to speak up. And when you speak up, it's not only because the posters on your wall say so. It's about that organization believe in what people are saying. And when they are saying, analyze those problems, come up with a solution, be transparent.
So you said one very interesting expression right now, which is I know it all,
Yeah.
right? And do you feel this I know it all, attitude comes in the way of the growth of the leader or a corporate executive or business executive?
Yeah, because the person is not willing to learn.
It does, right?
Yeah, because if I know it all, I will not learn. And in today's world, when things are, so you may have a business model today. So let's step back 3-4 decades earlier,
Yes.
than we are today.
Yes.
So technology has changed everything. And the most rapid transformation in businesses are happening in this last 5 years. And the next 5 years, it will be more rapid.
Sure.
So somebody who is a CEO from an era of 10 to 15 years ago, who says I know it all, perhaps is agnostic to the fact that world has changed within these last 15 years. In 15 years ago, you never had a Facebook. You never had a Google. You did not have mobile phones 15, 20 years ago. And so people used to think that, for example, in a media industry, people will watch films on, cinema. But, these days, days pass by when I switch on my TV, because I watch Netflix and Amazon Prime on tablets or on my phone. So the world has changed. The world is changing very, very fast.
Yes.
So if somebody says that I know it all, it is a disaster.
Absolutely.
And that is where, I think the biggest risk area is that person who thinks I know it all. and that is the first person the organization should ask to change or let go.
Or let go.
Yeah.
A lot of people confuse leadership with having a title or a position. But actually, it's different. It's about a skill, whether you have the title or position or not. So, do you feel building leadership skills is important not just for someone at the top leadership, but even someone who's part of the team?
Completely. I completely agree with you, because designation or title does not automatically translate into a leadership. It has to be, and I believe that this is one subject which, in an organization should be taken up very, very actively. And it should be, so the assessment should be more on the leadership skills in a team. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that everybody should be a leader, because there will always be leaders, there will always be followers. So that assessment needs to be done as to for what role, whether you should have a leader or a follower. And that is an exercise, a deep exercise, which an organization needs to do. And there are quite a few tools these days where you can really assess the kind of the role, kind of a trait of a person. As I jokingly say that, when two people are getting married, you should not check the stars, check the blood groups.
Sure.
So likewise, when you are choosing an executive, what is more important to check is the kind of a personality score that one has should be analyzed versus, the degrees, not like me, degrees or only the experience. Because I may be coming, say, from a media company, but if I'm coming to an aerospace or defense, or if I'm going to a mutual fund industry, there may be some adjustments which I need to make to be effective in these organizations. So what people also confuse is that my leadership style works everywhere.
Yes.
It's the same. But a true leader is able to adapt to a business culture. So a very smart leader would be the one who first understand the culture of the organization and then be able to adapt oneself to that culture and then lead.
I believe that irrespective of who you are or where you're at, you can build leadership skills inside you, and maybe even if you're someone who's a follower in the eyes of an organization, those skills will actually help you grow in your career. If you build those, you actually move from being a follower to being a leader. And even if you don't become a leader, those help you become a better performer and a better contributor to the organization. What would you?
No, I completely
Agree.
support that. And leadership skills, definitely, when people say you are a born leader, that is true. Because when you are born and when you are, being brought up, you may come with the leadership skills that you have learned from your family. I'm not saying that is good or bad. But when you are joining an organization, there you have to assess as to what are the leadership skills that I need to demonstrate, whether, and then assess the gap. So that gap assessment is very, very important. In some organizations, for example, which are sales driven, you may need to have somebody who is very, I would not say aggressive, but a task oriented person, a very determined person, who is able to motivate others to achieve those sales numbers, who encourages people to be better, effective salesmen, and to mentor and coach those people to be better salesmen. In some other organizations, for example, which are into learning and teaching, you may need to have a different skill set. So a person who is coming from a sales-driven organization to, say, an educational institution as a leader may need to learn to change the skill sets required to be successful in that organization. So in tomorrow's future organizational culture, what we have learned till today is, for example, if I'm a lawyer, I'm a good lawyer, So whether it's a aerospace company or a finance company or a media company, I should be able to do a good, effective legal work. The same kind of concept needs to be developed for leaders. That if I am a good leader, those kind of leadership skills should be successful in any kind of organization that I'm going to. For which a person has to understand the culture of the organization first. And what are the guiding principles of the promoters or the professional shareholders or your parent organization outside your jurisdiction. That is what we need to see. And we have to first understand that. Then tune yourself,
Yes.
the motherboard, the circuit board, and all these things. Put the right software in your mind to be able to adapt and become ready for that particular organization. That is something which we need to be focusing on the management team side. And then assess. For example, a person may be very, very aggressive. So that aggression is necessary, but in a different organization, whether it's necessary, what are the other things needs to be brought up.
So, in fact, it's interesting you say that, because I'm actually going to take the spin into leadership mentoring and training, and both from within the organization and from, let's say, external advisors such as me, right? So how important is it for both corporate business leaders and executives to actually get that leadership mentoring and training?
It is, I would say, for future organizations, we will not be able to survive unless we do that. India is a very different marketplace. In any industry that you see, Indian companies are equally successful compared to their multinationals. It is a territory where the business is for everyone. And it's not that foreign companies dominate the Indian business. Indian businesses are also very, very effective. So I would say that Indian industry has done a fantastic job to be able to prepare themselves to face a challenge of these multinational organizations, to learn from them, so that we bring the best of both sides. So an Indian business person would be aware of the offerings that a foreign company will provide. A classical case of Haldiram versus McDonald's. So McDonald's came in, our Indian food industry was developing. They saw the value of retail of McDonald's, the power of retail and reach of McDonald's, how they reach a scale to be able to reach out to so many consumers and rapidly grow business. And then you have Haldiram and then Bikaner Wala. They have been able to understand the retail business and implement for their type of food, and then become to reach that scale which somebody like McDonald's has been doing. So those things you will not be able to do unless the leadership in those organizations are also as professional, and the culture that you will create in those organizations is, because imagine a situation if somebody were to be selling a product in a McDonald's.
Yes.
That there could be a reason of attrition, because Haldiram or others may want to have those people work for their outlets. So then you have to create an organization where you retain your people, you motivate your people, you develop their leadership styles, the way a McDonald's would be doing internationally. So our Indian businesses are smart and they have done the same thing. But these are some examples. But others, for example, especially the home run businesses or the legacy companies in India, they also need to have a similar mindset that we have to develop leadership which is, which makes the environment face the competitive forces of, the multinationals. And that is where I think a lot of change needs to be done. People really have to understand that this is a development area, this is a focus area which will help our organizations grow. And we need a lot of talent to work with these companies so that the effectiveness of an organization is brought up.
So when you're talking about building leadership skill, how important is it for a corporate executive or leader to invest in his own growth. And like you've been to Wharton Business School, and you've invested a lot in doing a lot of external programs as well, so that you can grow. So how important is it for a corporate leader or executive to invest in his own growth? How important is it for a corporate to invest in the growth of its people? And should it be both?
The classic
Through external,
example,
coaching.
which is the real example, while I was evaluating to do a program at Wharton, so I went there, and the program director, he he welcomed me, and he said that you have seen a lot of stuff about Wharton as to what program we provide on leadership development. One thing we want to show you. So they took me to a classroom, and we went into the classroom, and there were about 30 executives, all from Hero Group. So the entire management team of Hero Group was in the classroom. Everybody was trying to develop the leadership of each one of them in the classroom. So and then all senior leaders, and they were out there to bring about a transformation in the management team to be able to become a world-class organization. So companies, and I'm sure there are other companies like Hero Group who would have invested in development of leadership of the executives, and that thing starts from the top. So I was told that the CEO also was there, and so the CEO wanted to bring about a change. In my own batch, we had 7 chief general managers from Reserve Bank of India. It was such a big motivation for all of us. All of them so senior, and they came over the Reserve Bank of India, and we were told that the bank does this kind of a development very frequently. Some of them go to Harvard, some of them went to Wharton, some of them went to Columbia. But the message is that there is a distinct need, and people now know that leadership development is one of the most important things which should be done, so that the growth and effectiveness in an organization goes up to a global level.
And here you spoke about corporate investing a lot in its people. Would you recommend a corporate executive to also invest in his own growth, irrespective of whether the corporate is
that is absolutely necessary, because we have to learn the best practices. If we have to be the best practices are inevitable, and we can dream about becoming the best, but this is how you become the best. So how has to be with a dream. It has to complement with the dream, and then there has to be action. So I may think that I will do this and then I become this, but unless I jump into it, only then it will happen.
A lot of people understand external results more than something which is about growth, like let's say leadership skills and leadership skill development. So what kind of external results can someone who is building leadership skill, according to you, expect to see?
See, that is extremely visible, and you can see in the eyes of the employees. So when they are meeting their leader, and the way they are comfortable with the leader, the way they are able to do anything for the leader, it's like jumping into the river. So if the leader is able to demonstrate that you jump off the bridge into the river and you will be saved, and the employee believes in the leader that I don't know how to swim, but I will be saved by my leader, is what they would like to see. And that is the confidence that a leader develops and in times also demonstrates. So, so we had a situation, when the unfortunate incident happened in Godhra. During the Godhra times, we had a factory at General Motors in Baroda, and the plant was shut. There was riots all over. But our leader at that point of time, Aditya, who was the MD then, he took that charge and he went to Baroda despite what was happening in Gujarat. And he took that charge and he brought out everybody from the plant to ensure safety. So that kind of courage is what is needed from our leaders, and that is the only way people will have put their trust. So trust is something like, you were to fly planes, you put trust in pilots, you put trust in technology. That is the kind of trust also needs to be put into a leader. That is for a leader to take up that challenge, to be honest and transparent with the people around them, and that is how it will happen.
And would you say that there could be other visible results? Like would you say that there can be career growth,
Correct.
or business growth, or
Yeah.
more profits, or
Yeah.
a better salary or increment
Yes.
by building
So
these skills?
all those things I would say are byproducts.
Yes.
So profitability.
Yes.
It's a metric.
Yes.
Salary growth is a metric.
Yes.
And that will only happen. So we should not be focused on those
Yes.
things. I think it is first being a more effective leader. So first, when you become a good leader, you develop leadership in others.
Yes.
Organization becomes productive.
Yes.
It becomes profitable.
Yes.
If it becomes profitable, you get your bonuses, you get a
Yes.
salary increase, you
Yes.
get your share price goes up. But it starts from the basic fact of being an effective leader and develop other people's leadership.
You've explained it beautifully. You've absolutely explained it beautifully for all those who needed to hear this. Of late, there are a lot of programs which are, developed through webinars and through online systems. And what benefit do you see in that for corporate executives or corporates in terms of, investing their time and effort in those kind of programs?
So there are two type of things. So some people may say that, and it is about an individual how one is able to learn. So for a person like me, I have always done that structured kind of learning. I have never tested online learning so far. I would love to. So somebody would say that perhaps the best way to learn is to join a class. Somebody may say, I do not have the time, but I am techno savvy. I'm very good at navigating. I'm a multitasker. I don't have time for a physical class, but I still want to learn. For that, a webinar may be a good idea. Somebody may say that, I have an 18-hour duration. Normal day is 18 hours to me. I can only do it through a webinar. Somebody may find it more effective. Somebody may be intimidated by a classroom. So it depends. It depends. But the punchline is that learning in any form should be encouraged.
Yes.
Organizations put a lot of money and resources in terms of tying up with global universities, providing these online programs and physical programs, which employees should definitely embrace. And it should be a constant exercise, not only for a legacy firm, but also for a startup or for a private business, that they should not see it as a waste of time. They should see it as an investment. So if you would like to, purchase a new machinery to improve productivity in a factory, this is an intellectual enhancement of a person, where if you invest, it will increase the productivity of an individual. And that, coupled with purchase of technology with the enhanced capability of an individual, will definitely bring better, profits, revenues, growth, everything to an organization.
What would you say about blended learning, where you have a couple of, maybe a 2-day live session supplemented with online masterminds and online group coaching? How do you think that would benefit someone who wants to get leadership training and mentoring?
I think that's the future. And that's what most of the leading universities, institutions in the world and also in India are doing. So that is perhaps the only way, because of the mobility restrictions, people, and then providing world-class education and learning. If it has to reach out to you, it has to be a blended learning. For example, I may want to do something from London School of Economics or from Harvard, Oxford, or Wharton, but my daily schedule does not allow me or for financial reasons. It may not be so that I may be able to do it and go and purchase tickets, stay hotels and do it. So that blended learning concept is something which is extremely important, and it is being done. Um, Also, with the evolution of technology and telecommunication, now it is possible that this can be very easily achieved. You can do these classes on your phone, on your tablets, on your laptops, and wherever you are. You can simply with your phone do a hotspot, get connected, take those classes. The third important benefit of this is at your own time. It may not be that these classes are happening at 4 a.m. So you have to be up and do at 4 a.m. You can do a recorded lecture, and the technology allows us to roster that training. So I think there are several benefits of doing it.
Thank you for sharing your views on that. How would you talk about, office politics is a sticky subject, and a lot of people shy away from that, but it's something everybody probably faces. And what's your advice on handling office politics and actually handling difficult people? How does one survive that?
So first of all, let's differentiate that after all, politics is not a bad word. So there is a positive politics, there is a negative politics. So a positive politics will be in the larger interest of the organization, that we may be required to take certain actions which are beneficial to an organization. Remember what General Motors recently did. They were facing a lot of problems in terms of multiple brands, multiple production facilities, which ultimately led to its bankruptcy. So Kathy Mara, the CEO of General Motors, she faced a lot of politics in terms of a positive politics. Whether General Motors, who had been iconic with 34 successful years as a top of Fortune 500 organization, how do we change and become and leave markets like India? But she took that decision. She took that decision to hive off markets which were not profitable and focus only on profitable markets. Same thing happened with Indra Nooyi. She would have faced a lot of both negative and positive politics to convert Pepsi from unhealthy cola company, as the investors or people and would say that they only sell both Coke and Pepsi sell high calorie products. But something inside, a conviction inside Indra Nooyi would have taken that courage forward to transform an organization from unhealthy mindset to a healthy food catering company, because she improved the product offerings from, so she continued with cola, but she brought in low calorie drinks, fruit drinks, and then healthy snacks, which ultimately led to the benefit of the organization. So detractors became supporters, and it happened that she was able to translate a lot of politics for the benefit of the organization. So that is how you treat a positive politics. Negative politics has no place in the corporate sector. It's very plain and simple. It is prevalent, it's rampant, but it has no place. So one of the important traits on our favorite subject of leadership is for the top management collectively have to take a pledge and demonstrate that, like corruption, we have to let go negative politics. And negative politics is something which the moment you hear, it has to be taken at the topmost level. Like it's like an ethics call. Somebody calls an ethics department. Similar should be a call for politics. That this person is paying politics against me. It should be treated in the same way. Talk to the ethics line and do away with the negative politics there and then. And that could be a very strict action. So once you do an investigation, when you find out whether the politics was there, you take action to kill the negative politics. It has no place in corporate sector.
Office politics is like an internal crisis. When it comes to dealing with external crisis, because sometimes it's not something which the organization has done or a person has done, but it's coming external to that person or organization. So how does one deal with that?
Yeah, so again, it's a business cycle. So something which has happened in the parent organization, and the Indian environment may be still be productive, but since there is a lot of interplay between a parent organization and the local subsidiary, what happens in the parent company, you get a bad name in a subsidiary. We have seen classical cases during the 2008 meltdown when large banks in US failed. So something which happened there, but a global organization suffered. We have the case of Arthur Andersen. What happened in some part of the organization impacted the other parts of the organization as well. So things like those do happen, and that is unfortunate. So the leader, it's like a ship which is sinking. So the captain of the ship cannot jump the ship. It has to be, the crew has to be together till all the passengers, they go off board safely. So that is the role of a leader, that they have to see that the ship is sinking, but I have to first take care of my own people. That is how the leadership should be looking at dealing in such situations where you can't but help what is happening to you, but at least try and mitigate whatever you can do for the benefit of the employees or your colleagues.
I've really enjoyed listening to every single nugget of wisdom that you have shared. Could I request you to give any last words of wisdom to any aspiring leader, any corporate leader, any corporate executive?
Yeah, so I think one thing is always to walk the talk. That is something which is essential. Always remember that leaders is not what we say, leaders is what we do. We may say less, we may do more. That will be more effective and productive. We may write very good, effective emails, but if that email is not able to generate the trust and confidence of employees in your organization, perhaps writing that email is not effective. The demonstration of the fact that you are there genuinely with a person to make him or her a better person, a better value creator, is what people sense. And when people are intelligent, invest in the best talent. That, I think, is not something what I say. I think any organization you see, never ever try and hire a person who is not talented, and allow people that freedom to work, follow their hobbies. It's not that 12 days anybody is doing 8 hours of hobbies, obviously, but allow that space within your office time for an individual to get that energy and motivation to be able to perform better.
That's a wealth of information you've shared with me and with the audience out there. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much
for your time and for all the valuable wisdom you've shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.